Hey everyone, thank you for clicking on the video. Omega Level Nerds here, J100 and myself. So, how's things gone since the last time we met?
Going good, man. I'm having a nice little transition in between jobs right now. So I am 100% in nerdy mode, too much to my girl's chagrin because I guess she didn't realize what a gamer, when I said I was a gamer, what that meant. When I have a time period in which I need to get
Mm-hmm.
through backlog or get through whatever, I will do it.
Yeah.
So that means 12 hours straight, if need be, or more. But outside of that, getting through some Final Fantasy VII Remake. I beat 16 not too long ago. I got to go through that again. And catching up on some anime. And Bad Batch just came out today, I believe. And we watched those as well. So
Yeah,
good stuff. And
unfortunately,
I need to get into Rebirth open world part of the demo updated today. So I need to do that as well. But I'm trying to get the last dress that I need in 7 Remake. So I've
yeah.
been working on that.
Yeah, I haven't seen
How
the
are you,
Bad
man?
Batch yet. Yeah, I'm doing great. I didn't get a chance to see the Bad Batch today, but we'll definitely be, we'll be having some dissertation editorializing about that. But it's funny you mentioned Final Fantasy because I am trying to decide on do I want to get a PS5 to play Final Fantasy Rebirth. Even though as a Final Fantasy fan, I'm in a really strange place because when I examine my own Final Fantasy fandom, if you will, what I really mean by that is I really enjoy. I was OG NES. I played Final Fantasy 1. Now I was a bit too young to really understand everything and play through it myself. So it was really kind of me and my friend, mostly my friend, who's just like a smart guy. And so that's how I experienced Final Fantasy 1. Then Final Fantasy 2 came along, which we all know was Final Fantasy 4. And that was my Final Fantasy. That's the one that really I was into Final Fantasy. So that's, going to be my favorite, which was one of, your theories that you told me a long time ago that, really everybody's Final Fantasy is the one they kind of first get into. And I think that holds
Yeah.
pretty true. Then so obviously, so that we got Final Fantasy 4. We didn't get Final Fantasy 5 here in America yet in real time. Again, I'm speaking as these games actually came out, but we did get Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 3 here in America. And then of course PlayStation comes out, we get 7, we get 8, we get 9, PlayStation 2, we get 10. And so when I say I'm a Final Fantasy fan, like that really to me it means okay, I really like Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7, not 8. I know we disagree about that one, but Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10. I was never into the MMO stuff, so Final Fantasy 11 and 14
Right.
off the list. Final Fantasy 13, I just never saw anything about it that made me want to jump into it. I did play Final Fantasy 12. I didn't like it. You know, things like the Ifrit and Bahamut instead of being, these big Eidolon summoning monsters, they were these big ships. But I did play 15. I played through 15. And I honestly think 15, if the character designs were better, that would have been a way better game for me. Honestly, I thought the monsters looked great. I thought it was the best representation of Final Fantasy monsters you ever saw. I just didn't like the boy band aspect. And you saw other characters in that game, by the way, with wearing armor. I remember that Dragoon chick. I remember looking at her like, oh, that's fucking
Right.
cool. Why can't my party
Yeah.
look like that?
Right.
So when it comes to Final Fantasy 16, it's like I call it Final Fantasy Devil May Cry. I actually
Yeah.
haven't played the thing, so I mute my distaste for it because I actually haven't played it. With the Final Fantasy remake, I really enjoyed it. I love the graphics overhaul. I really like the battle system, but I don't like the fact that they're obviously going to change the story. Played through the whole remake, liked it, but at the end of it, I thought about it and I'm like, oh, I really don't want a change of the story. But the battle system's great. I really I like that aspect of, okay, it's real time action, but I can stop it at any time, switch to a character, have them do something else, use an item, switch back. Like, as long as you can stop the action to do that, I don't need turn based. So for Final Fantasy 16, again, it just looked like a fun, Devil May Cry. So, I haven't played it, but obviously you have, and you're obviously excited for Rebirth. I may buy a PlayStation 5 just to hate playthrough with it. I mean, I'm interested, and it is fun. It's going to be fun. The battle system's going to be fun. Like, I know that. I'm just going to have beef with the story. But so that's where I'm at with my Final Fantasy fandom. I just, coming clean here. I'm in a weird place with Final Fantasy right now.
Final Fantasy, and I really need to figure out which piece of media really truly got me into the just let them cook type of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing that I kind of have with Star Wars too, where it's just like, all right, yeah, Disney may have made some decisions that, like, ultimately, I probably wouldn't have made or whatever, but now, especially after watching the first 3 episodes of Bad Batch season 3, if for us at least, if you're not understanding what's happening right now, please just shut up. Not you, but, and they're not even about Final Fantasy.
Sure.
I'm just saying with Star Wars, just like shut up. Like, it's a good save. They're saving it. Okay, I understand where you're coming from. Like, I get it. Made some changes, and Luke Skywalker gave up. Okay, yeah, shut up. Just watch it, right? So when it comes to Final Fantasy and my fandom with that, these were, when I got into it, and for those that don't, haven't heard the Final Fantasy origin story, D kind of gave his, but mine is, I had a friend who we grew up in the same religious families type of deal, and we both weren't. So we kind of latched onto each other because, we had someone that we could relate to. Did you fucking with this? No, well, I ain't fucking with it either. What do you like? I like games. Oh, I like games too. Let's play some games.
Right on.
And this dude was like, just kind of had how you had a friend who was just a little bit more into it than I thought was possible, right? And so he got me into emulation. And during the time period that we were hanging out, Final Fantasy VII was in production. So to get me spun up or whatnot, he showed me Final Fantasy 4 or 2. And so, I remember asking, is that Cloud? It's like, no, that's Cloud. Final Fantasy. Every game is its own story. Okay. Well, is that Tifa? John, every game is its own story. Oh, okay. All right. Well, what's this story about? So when he explained Final Fantasy 4, it's not that great of a story overall. Like, it's great. It's wonderful. One of the best Final Fantasy games I think ever made. Top 5, right? But it's a terrible story. It's terrible. It's a horrible story.
Well, it really loses it at the end where it's like, oh, yeah. Golbez. Oh, Jerome Zemus. Okay,
Right. It's a terrible story. Weird stuff. You got misogyny. You got ageism.
Mm-hmm.
You got just I wouldn't even say like discrimination, but like, where the old dude, was hating on the print. It was just a weird story, but we loved it, and we loved it for what it was. I don't know, maybe it was social media or the internet or TikTok or people figuring out that you can get views from being a shithead, but I don't like to do that because it ruins an actual conversation. Myself personally, I've been searching for deep analytical, just dug into analyzations of this content, especially Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I can't get through 5 minutes of any of these motherfuckers. You got the, Cloud should be with Aerith bullshit. You got, oh well, they didn't do it exactly 100%, and I'm gonna get to that in a second. You got people who didn't understand the first game trying to give analyzation on remake. Like, you clearly don't understand what was happening if you're making the points that you're making. You clearly don't understand what's happening if you're shipping Aerith with Cloud. You clearly didn't understand what's happening, and then again, I think the biggest thing about this is when you really, really, really deeper into Final Fantasy VII, past disc 2, probably right during or before Cloud losing his shit and
Yeah.
and him and Tifa getting caught in the live stream.
Live stream, yeah.
It was jumping the shark. The story's dumb. It's really bad. The stuff just not making any sense, and that's why they have had to had decades of filler content to make up for the mistakes that they made in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, I understand where you are coming from, and those who are like, oh, they're changing the story up a little bit. I understand where you're coming from, right? Imagine if they're saying, hey, we're doing an episode 4 remake. Actually, no, I'm gonna liken it to this. It's a little different, but still similar at the same time. When Lucasfilm or Disney or whoever the fuck, I think it was George Lucas, added in the 3D scenes when they remade the showed the movie in the movie theaters again.
Okay, yeah.
Episode 4 through 6.
Mm-hmm.
Those added little 3D scenes throw the shit so off. Oh, it's gross, especially the like,
yeah.
What? Disney Plus, take that shit out. Just take it out. Take that out and make Han shoot Guido.
Yeah.
Please just do those two things. And I will not complain about I don't much anyway, but I won't complain about it anymore. So I say all that to say that when it comes to 7, what 7 Remake is doing is kind of clearing up the holes they had in the story. We don't really know about Professor Gast. We don't really know about Althena. We don't really know truly about Hojo. We really don't know anything about Sephiroth. But people have made this shit their whole personality. Now, I'm a Final Fantasy head, okay? Final Fantasy is my goddamn personality. But I'm not going to sit here and make these characters be what I want them to be in my head, because I don't work at Square Enix. I wish I did. It's a dream of mine. But I'm not on the editorial staff. I'm not on the writing staff. I'm not on the character development staff. I'm not on any of that shit. So when it's all said and done, it's not my story. Granted, this is a game that I've grown up with. It's one of the first games that I watched from production to my screen. I knew it was anytime a PSX magazine came out. Oh, they got something else from Final Fantasy 7. And the characters can run.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, innovations. Yeah.
The polygons were why we are so stuck on 7. I don't get. I personally don't get. I remember when I first started streaming again, or when I first started streaming, my stream was a Final Fantasy stream, and one of the first games I played, was it the first? Yeah, it was the first game I played to like 100% was 7. And granted, I had a good time up until like this 3. I had a good time, but it's just not a complete. It was never complete. So the things that they're doing to change things up a little bit: one, create a multiverse in the universe, if that is in fact where they're going. Number 2, I think that the first game, especially with the Whispers, is a diversion, because the whole point of them is to keep things happening the way that they're supposed to happen. So the Whispers are I mean, to make it make sense, the Whispers are you. Were you annoyed by the Whispers?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Whispers are the fans that say everything has to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. So when spoiler alert, but the game's been out for 3 years.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, but when Barrett got stabbed, threw me off a little bit. But that wasn't supposed to happen. He kind of broke fate a little bit and followed. First and foremost, the president wasn't dead in the first place. So the fact that Barrett saved him, fate was already changing.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not much different on 5, but you have Intergrade, and then you have Rebirth coming out, and those two things right there, I'm pretty sure is like 70, 80 hours of prime, PlayStation 5 content that ultimately, no matter what they do, no matter where it goes, even if, this is not going to happen, I don't think, but even if like, Cloud turns into Sephiroth and murders everybody, and at the end of the game, you just got like, main character heads on the title screen. I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but I'm just saying, even if that were the case, not my game, bro. And I'm at this point truly in my nerdy life where if I want something to be the way that I want it to be, then write it, or write things so well that I get to be on the Star Wars writing team, or I get to be on the Final Fantasy writing team, or I get to be on the Marvel writing team,
Yeah.
and be all in the room like, no, I don't think niggas is gonna like that. I don't think they're gonna like that. And hopefully do things that way. But clearly, there was a video that I saw. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's like a reel or a TikTok or something of all the writers talking about how they have all the Marvel writers, especially Fate 5 Marvel writers, 4 and 5, um, not knowing anything about the comics, or even being told not to read the comics to taint what they're trying to do, which can cause some holes. But again, ultimately, this is the MCU, not comic book one for one,
Yeah.
remaster. That's not what it is. And for the people that want a one to one Final Fantasy remake or whatever, there's been mods for decades that'll give you kind of what you want. If you want the broken, fragmented, not fully realized story by the time you get to disc 3 Final Fantasy, that's fine. For me personally, I like having the so much intricate detail that it's not even funny, and ultimately, as I went through like my half second playthrough, because I'm going through the chapters and getting all the little stuff I need to complete, the Easter eggs that they have from the first game is nostalgic enough that, to be honest with you, I wouldn't want a one-to-one remake. I would want what they do have, that, the story is familiar, the characters are familiar. Aerith from the beginning is like, some ain't right, but she's not fourth walling it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
she kind of did, but like
A
she
little
didn't.
bit.
But a little bit at the end of the game, again, spoiler alert, when she was like, "You're wrong. You ain't supposed to be here." That was bigger,
Yeah.
bigger stuff. That I was like, I kind of want to see Rebirth now, because I do want to see where it goes, and they are keeping to it faithfully enough. I don't know if you played the Nibelheim um, part of the demo yet,
I
but
haven't. I haven't played any of the demo yet. I really am trying to resolve within myself. Am I going to play through this game? Um, because, and I'm usually with you about the whole, like, this is different. I absolutely agree. The MCU is not one for one comic universe. I do lean toward, if you can make it comic accurate, please do. But I do understand where some changes have to be made, because there is a bunch of ridiculous things in comics and 30-year-old video games where graphics still leave things up to interpretation. So I get all that,
wait,
and
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. I like Scott Lang over Hank Pym, because if we take Hank Pym to his comic conclusion, he's a piece
agreed,
of shit, and I don't
agreed.
want to watch that.
Uh,
So you know what I mean? Like
that's
these are the
absolutely
things that we can we can agree that there are some changes that I do like. You know what I mean? I like that Tony created Ultron instead of Hank. I like that, well, Tony and Bruce technically. Stuff like that. Like it keeps things fresh, keeps things interesting, keeps them similar enough where you can see where they're drawing from, but then also see what they're adding on to it. And for someone that is, to be honest with you, I'm kind of burnt out on nostalgic remakes. Can we do something original?
I think a lot of
Can we do some more
people.
original stuff? And that's why for me, 16, even though it is Final Fantasy Devil May Cry, I will give you that. It's different. The story, I mean, side missions make you want to, the side quests make you want to um, do things to yourself that are not very helpful and conducive to your health. But outside of the 5 billion side quests, the story, bro, top notch. And I definitely can see why there's no people of color in this game now, which is one of the things that if I don't think we were streaming or we were recording then, but I'm pretty sure we did have the conversation about Final Fantasy 16 not being diverse, and me saying that the only way that I will accept it is if it makes sense within the story for there not to be. And it kind of does. I'm really glad they didn't have too many
Okay.
people. I mean, there kind of was people of color, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I understand kind of like how the Arabic kind of thing works within the spectrum of race that we have in our world.
Yeah.
So technically that's people of color, but they're not. They just live in the desert. Uh
Sure. Right.
but that was I give them credit for that one, and that's what I'm saying. Just you let them cook sometimes. That it's great. You mentioned Final Fantasy 13. So you said that you didn't hear enough good things about it to make you want to really get into it, which I, I can understand your sentiment on that because you didn't really hear good things. Now, I had no choice because I pre-ordered the uh, uh, PlayStation 13, Xbox 360. So not only
Mm,
was I getting the system out this mug, I was getting a brand of Final Fantasy 13 plated HDD drive and
right.
all that other kind of stuff like that. So I really had no choice but to get it and play it and see what it was.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna tell you right now. Figure out how to emulate that, or if you still have your PlayStation 3, play that.
I do.
Because the thing that you were running up against was people upset that it wasn't 13 verses. That's it. That's it. That's it.
Hmm.
Really. And that it was linear. But again, are you paying attention to the narrative that this game is telling you? You're on the run
Yeah.
from a whole planet, technically.
Okay.
You not gonna be in the open when you on the
Yeah.
run. You
Yeah.
gotta run through the, you know what I mean, until the end when you start to build up and whatever. But 13 is worth it. Now the whole franchise, I didn't get into the whole franchise because I had to be a grown boy when 13 2 and Lightning Returns came out. So those are ones
Yeah.
that I definitely need to get into. But as far as 13, pretty solid, pretty solid. If you've never listen to anything that was being said, or you ignore everything that was being said and you play it for yourself. Now, yes, are there going to be some problems? Yeah, of course. Is the battle system a little weird and wonky? Of course, because they were experimenting with a couple of different things. But outside of that, so Final Fantasy titles, Final Fantasy themes, talking about gods, talking about the little man. We're talking about empires. We're talking about it's the Final Fantasy game. So, I think that was the beginning of me realizing that the internet is a place where negativity gets a boost.
Oh
And
yeah.
it just has never really made sense to me. So I will say for you personally, it's worth making the investment. But for the others out there, um, let stuff ride and you make your own decisions, even if those decisions are ignorant. And what I mean by that is if you're one of those people out there that think that Cloud and Aerith should be together, don't talk to me. But but at least get into get into the medium and figure out things for yourself. Even for the people that don't understand Genova and don't understand Sephiroth and don't understand Materia and don't understand the live stream,
Yeah.
there's a place for you. You just keep playing it and keep, maybe write the transcript of the words out so you can read them. Maybe you'll comprehend them that way.
Right.
But give it a shot. If it's not your thing, I got you. But what I don't understand are people who like to objectively say that Final Fantasy VII is terrible because you don't like. And realistically, the only things that they really changed was added Sephiroth in a few more places than he
Right.
was the
Earlier in
original.
the game, yeah.
And but realistically, we don't know what Cloud was freaking out about when he was freaking out in the first game. We just saw a white screen and a voice. Maybe he was hallucinating Sephiroth. They didn't have the pixel. They didn't have the space within the disc. It'd have been 8 discs at that point if we would have
Right.
had all what Cloud was thinking about in his head. You know what I mean? So realistically, the only thing that was really changed was Barrett, but that wasn't really changed. And the fact that this may not be the reality that we grew up knowing. Outside of that, those are the only two things that are different. And a couple of characters they added in for side stuff or whatever. But outside of that, everything was the same.
Yeah, you
Same
know,
bosses.
I'm usually an easygoing guy in that respect. And again, I did have fun with the remake. I thought mechanically, visually, the game was perfection. Loved it. The music, holy fuck. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get any better. But right or wrong, they had sold us a 1-for-1 that's what we originally got excited. What was it, 10 years ago at this fucking point when they showed the original footage? It was something I did not expect them. I expected them to add, to flush out. We knew that was, since it was going to be episodic. We knew that since the first game was just going to encompass Midgar, which is only the first, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours of the game, something like that. So I accept all that. The part that I'm having trouble with is again, because I do want the 1-for-1 remake. Nostalgia really is way over in demand. People really do demand it way more, and so I get what you're saying about let's do the new, let's not always go back and do the old. I do get all that, but I'm stuck on that original announcement and feeling, because again, the only thing that's really wrong with Final Fantasy VII is the graphics, the original. Other than that, you're right, the story is, and it's the darkest fucking world ever. I mean, you're talking about a world where as soon as they figured out like how to make machines, they find this new power source, and what happens? A corporation takes it over. And everyone has to either live under this.
Anyone that has anything to say different,
right? I mean, as immediately this world starts, they just start inventing machines. They just find this power source, and oh, by the way, the power source is killing the planet and is controlled by an evil corporation that oppresses all. Great.
So let me ask you this one, and obviously in subsequent media, they've changed this, but I don't think that they won in the first one, in 97. From a 1997 perspective.
No, because
without Urgus Cerberus, without Advent Children, without Crisis Core, without the Ultimanias or whatever, they didn't win. Like, Cloud fought Sephiroth in his head. How you use a limit break you ain't got. I mean, unless you got it, but it took a couple playthroughs to figure out how that limit kind of meta worked. So how are you beating Sephiroth with a limit break that you didn't acquire? This is in his head. How did you fight a god? Did you? Went inside a meteor?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is ambiguous, and at the end of the game, all you really
What was
know,
Red 13? What was Red 13 running with his cubs?
right,
And we know that he ages weird. Why is Midgar got grass on it?
right,
Why
Mig,
is this Buster Sword sitting here? Whose Buster Sword is this? We
yeah.
didn't get any answers then.
No, and even if
So
you consider Advent Children, it really doesn't match up 100% because, like you just mentioned, at the end of Final Fantasy VII, Midgar is overgrown. Plant life is taking it back. The Earth is taking back everything. But then flash forward to Advent Children, and Midgar is still like fully populated. Um,
well, I think what we ultimately realized, or what was told when the Ultimanias and all that stuff came out, was that the end scene with Red 13 was what, like 500 years in the
okay,
future,
so
or a
that
couple
far
hundred
flung
years in the
into because
future.
I haven't played through
But
those.
this is what I'm talking about. They had to tell us this afterwards. I'm talking about how you read the game, beating it in 1997. Did they win? And like, we beat Sephiroth, quote unquote, but
Right, but we
did we?
didn't save civilization per se. Like we don't
Did
know that.
we?
Yeah.
Do we know what the live stream? We don't know. So what I'm trying to say is even with the subsequent media. So Advent Children, um, and again, Spirits Within only failed because you wanted it to be Final Fantasy VII Advent Children.
It's true.
Almost ruined your own damn company that you love so much, fans, because a movie that one of the greatest video game minds in the history of the world was like, oh, I want to make a movie. And when you watch the movie and stop trying to think that it's Final Fantasy VII, it's actually a good movie. It's a really, really, really good movie. A movie that if something needs to be remade, Spirits Within. But anyway, so when you watch Advent Children, I personally, after watching Advent Children, was more pissed off after watching Advent Children than seeing Spirits Within in the theaters, because I was let down. What the hell was all that? What the hell was all that? When we think about Advent Children, what the hell was all that? The geostigma and all these little weirdo, like, what are we talking about? What are we doing? And we just wanted action, and we wanted
That's what got me.
right.
We
That's
wanted
what I'm
Cloud
saying.
getting
We
thrown
wanted to
up
see
by
Cloud jumping
every.
around.
Yeah.
We wanted to see if Tifa's little dress thing went up too high. We wanted to we
Hey.
wanted to see Barrett say, Mother Blanco. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that we wanted to see. But that doesn't mean that makes a cohesive and good story just because that's what you wanted. All these things that people say that they wanted Luke Skywalker to do, realistically, if we saw that in the future, it would have ruined the franchise. We'd be stuck in this universe. We'd be
True.
stuck. How is it going to end if it don't end? And how is it going to end? How is it not going to end if the dude that you want it to continue, if he don't tell you, bro, it's over. It's literally, again, Luke in Last Jedi, I mean, and even well, I wouldn't say Rise of Skywalker, but Rise of Skywalker 2 is um I guess like the writing room telling you to let us cook. Like, I know that we gave JJ Abrams Force Awakens, and he kind of screwed that up. And I know that we splintered Ryan Johnson's movie, and I don't even know who did the third one. Doesn't even matter.
J.J.
But
Abrams.
oh, was it JJ? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
because they
that was.
brought JJ back
Yep.
because they, yeah, right.
That
Okay,
was the whole
that's right.
problem
So
that he didn't. It
so
wasn't a
so, so
cohesive thing.
right, exactly. And so that was the point, is because it wasn't cohesive. We were letting these three directors cook at three different times within one trilogy. That doesn't make any sense. So when they really tighten the reins and really are forcing, Fellini to make sure the animated universe is leading to where they are with the Mandalorian, and Mandalorian's leading where they are with the First Order, and then when you got Ahsoka going, all the other, just let them. Can we please just? These people are professional writers. If you were a professional writer, you'd be professionally writing, fans. You would be. If I was a professional writer, I would be giving y'all some Star Wars, okay, amazingness if I was a professional writer. But I'm not. I'm just a fan. So as a fan, I'm going to let them cook. And where they cook is what I'm going to analyze. You can't analyze the meal you
Yeah,
wanted.
what's not
You have
there?
to analyze the meal that you ate. You can't be like, well, I wanted the noodles to be what was the noodles? Were they crunchy? Okay, crunchy noodles.
Right.
That's what happened. Crunchy noodles. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right
that.
on.
That's just and putting them both together. Like that's my thing. I think ultimately where these fans are coming from, and I don't want to like shit on them too hard, but like where I think these fans are coming from are their life sucked so much that the only thing that they can hope for is if they were right about their headcanon. And so let's back that up a second. Let's not be right about our headcanon, and let's realize that our life sucks so much because of the systems that we decide to maintain and continue and enable. Okay. So that's why our life sucks. But since our life sucks that way, let's enjoy the media that we're being given and give us some little positive reprieve that way instead of then taking the thing that you like and turning it into what you hate. I just don't understand that. And then maybe the algorithm will figure out positivity is actually better than negativity, and that we probably shouldn't incentivize negativity anymore because it's not coherent. It doesn't make any sense. You're letting people that don't. You're letting people, and I don't want to like call out the younger generation like this, but like you're letting people that didn't watch the production of Final Fantasy VII from the beginning to the end. You're
Hmm.
letting people that didn't play this game for 20 plus years before the
Right.
remake came out. Tell me what I played 20 years ago. I just personally that just doesn't read unless you understood what was being played 20 years ago. But every time I try to let these guys cook, um, I can't find anything that resembles them knowing what they're talking about.
Right.
And I think that then that becomes the problem. That becomes, oh, this guy with,
It's a huge problem.
100,000 subscribers. Well, he told me, well, did you play it yourself? No.
Right.
Well, every video that I see on Final Fantasy 13 says, well, did you play it yourself? Because if you did, you'd kind of understand the story. And if you understood the story, then you would understand that why they're trying to hide in the shadow. They're not trying to be in the open
Right.
until they need to be in the open, which is what 10-2 and Lightning's Returns is all about. You're in the open then, you're fighting gods. we're God fighting. We can go anywhere we want to. Now we can go into dimensions. We can go in, oh, now it's too big for you. Now it's too vast. Oh, first you're complaining that it was too linear. Now it's too vast for you. Like this is
Yeah.
things that just people just need to just let stuff ride sometimes. And if it's bad, if it's ultimately bad, it's bad.
If it's Madam Web
But Final
bad,
Fantasy
it's
VII
bad.
Remake itself, right? Final Fantasy VII Remake itself isn't bad because ultimately it's everything that we loved, just slightly altered. Force the trilogy sequence, trilogy sequels weren't. I mean, they were kind of bad, but they weren't as bad as we were expecting. So much more. Are you familiar with the saying 6 seasons in a movie?
No, never heard that before.
So Abed, which is kind of like the neurodivergent character, um, who looked at rural life as like TV. He'll call
Hmm.
things tropes and like, oh, this one of those type of episodes? And like, Abed, life's not TV. Like, shut up. But there were times when he made salient points. And one thing that him and Troy, which is his best friend Donald Glover, um, would talk about were their favorite shows getting 6 seasons in a movie. And so, in order to, from a TV to movie perspective, right, you build your show up so good that you can make an all-encompassing movie. Bam! So your TV success led to box office success. Well, flip that. Have your movie be so open-ended that you can then do TV series.
Right on. Yeah.
So the sequel trilogy to me is just this open-ended mishmash of like, okay, now I need to know about Poe. Okay, now I need to know about Finn. Okay, now I need to know about this Palpatine stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened during this time period? During this time, what happens? Why? How'd the First Order come? How did this happen? What Palpatine somehow returned? What do you mean? How did this happen? It wasn't no damn somehow. This motherfucker been trying to return for 30 damn years. Like,
Right. Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Like, this is what we're talking about. One little line where they realize, oh shit, we're making Oscar Isaac, this amazing actor, say this random thing. They're resolving it right now. Okay, should your movie be so open-ended like this? I don't know, but we're getting into a realm where we have like
For Star Wars
streaming. We
junkies
have
like
these
me,
movies.
for Star Wars junkies, it's great.
Yeah.
But no, you're spot on, and it's no secret. Negativity it wins on the internet. It's what it, particularly when something changes, because we look at the new X-Men 97 series that's coming out. They just released a trailer. Watched it. I fucking loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong, though. The first shot of it is like a TV, and then in the corner is a toy. I used to have a Colossus action figure that I used to have. So right away I'm like, oh yeah,
You're like, oh, this is gonna be good.
right. I'm like, yeah, in it already. I know he's
Yeah.
not a main character of the show, but I'm still like, okay, they're fucking, these motherfuckers are cooking. All right, and then you see that Jean Grey's pregnant, which actually isn't a comic thing. Cyclops, to me, my X-Men. And Cyclops is such an awesome character that really isn't given enough spotlight outside of the comics. He's really that fucking dog. Like, and I know he's like a white guy and all that, but he's a mutant. Like, so he knows very much the experience of living in a world that does not welcome him, does not want him. And he's not like an ultra pretty mutant because he's got fucking visors on and shit, and he sees red all the time because it opens his eyes. It opens a portal into a concussive blast. But anywho, so I'm super excited that he's like very much in the forefront of this new show, saying to me, my X-Men. Then you fucking see Wolverine running, gets his claws out. Gambit jumps on his back, charges up his claws. Like, I'm like, fuck yes, X-Men, baby. So excited.
90s style too.
Right.
That's kind of the part of it. This is probably like the only 90s show that I'll accept in 2024.
Right. So super excited about all of that. And then, but you get online and what do I see? You're talking about like, you don't want to shit on, the younger generation or something, but boy, the generation behind me or whoever, people must not be getting laid regularly. Like I'm in my 40s, I'm married,
Yeah.
I get regular sex. So when I see that Rogue's butt and tits aren't so big, I'm like, no problem. I don't read comic books or watch comic book movies for fat material. Yeah. Now, maybe in the original show, I appreciated some Rogue, some Rogue butt. Some Storm, but I'm sorry, yeah. I'm a hetero male. I mean, back then
I was 9-10. Actually, it came out in 92, so I was like 7, 8. But
right before I got to have actual sex.
11, 12.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But guess what, guys? We're all in our 40s, so like, it's weird that you care so much about a certain character's ass shape. It's really weird.
I mean. So, and I know this part of social media because my girl is involved in this part of social media, but Facebook, well, all the places will pay you in order to go viral as much as possible. And, she's only made like $5 tops, you know what I mean? And just mass sending out, memes and copied posts and funny copied posts or whatever. So there's that part. So it's people are incentivized to get a rile out of you, and so my snooze and show less and hide and whatever on especially my Facebook, bro. That thumb is about to get beefy, bro.
Click, 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 yeah.
I'll give you a case in point. So there is the sports page, Sportskeeda, and all the different iterations of Sportskeeda. And I don't know if Sportskeeda is like ran by, and again, I'm not trying to make it political or whatnot, but to make this make sense, uh, I don't know if Sportskeeda is ran by like avid, tried and true, like for real Trump supporters or not. But like anytime there's for instance, NASCAR just started. Um, in the truck series, they got this young black kid, Raja Karuth. He had a pretty good race, but it's Daytona. So last lap, he kind of made a stupid move, and that move ended up having basically everyone behind them wreck.
Oh
So he ended
man.
up, yeah, and so he ended third because I think they penalized them. Or no. When the caution would have been waived, he kind of was behind the guy that he ended up getting in front of at the finish line. So
Hmm.
he ended third. He technically crossed the line second, but when you read the way that the post was posted, it was to piss you off.
Oh,
I think like and then on top of that, there's another one with fake quotes from people during tumultuous times. So, for instance, saw a fake quote from Kyle Shanahan talking about Cam Newton. I saw fake quotes from Brock Purdy talking about Cam Newton. I saw fake quotes from Deion Sanders talking about Nick Saban. Like these aren't real quotes. These guys didn't say this. Boy, look at them comments and the mentions
yep.
and the
All that
shares and
engagement. Yep.
they got exactly what they're looking for. So there's times where I have to be like, I'm only commenting on this to get you guys to realize that this is bullshit and they want you to just comment on this so they get paid. So I'm helping making it worse, but I'm trying to make it a little bit better. Like I'll be that guy because they're doing this on purpose. That guy didn't say this. That's not what happened if you actually watched the race. That's not what this person said. Um everybody making a heyday about Caitlin Clark or the new one. And again, Sportskeeda keeps popping up, so
Yeah.
I try to get rid of them, but they won't go away. Um, talking about Sabrina Ionescu at the 3-point contest and like all the kind of stuff like that, like stoking the flames. And like, what are we actually talking about? Because if we actually break down, and I guess this is the 24-hour news thing too, but if we actually break down some of what these conversations are, they're like 5-minute conversations, and we can move on.
Oh yeah.
But since we have to add so much context and we got to do this and we got to do that, then they turn into news cycles, week-long news cycles, where ultimately what was originally said was lost. The good points get drowned out by the negativity, and then here we are, right? So when it comes to nerdy stuff and sports sometimes, I will try to, and if you like the negative or whatever, I guess we can bring it and we can shut it down. But I'm trying to shut that down, or I want to have, for real. If you're a content creator out there that's doing deep dives on Final Fantasy stuff, hit me up. I want to watch everything you do, especially if you know what you're talking about. I want to every single second of your video. I will watch. I will comment. I will share it. I will, bro, give it to me or chicks, whoever it is. I don't care. I want good Final Fantasy content. I want some good Star Wars content with stuff that makes sense. If you don't know, find out. And if you can't find out, say you don't know. And this is what my thoughts on it are. But that's not how conversations happen. And ultimately, it
Yeah.
leads to, you know, all this BS. But yeah,
That's too bad you can't
ultimately,
find that big deep dive. Because I've sat
well, I
and watched
have,
8 hours.
watched them already. That's
Okay,
the
I
thing.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Because I've
yeah,
watched 8 hour dissertations on Mega Man
yep.
X,
You're
before.
right. I can't remember who it was. Because he researches so long or so deeply that his videos come out like every like 3 to 6 months or whatever. But uh, as far as Final Fantasy goes, there's a couple of guys that I want to highlight. I believe it's called Arc Resonance. Those guys,
Okay.
where they uh, uh, like break down chapters of games and bro, if you don't like Final Fantasy 8, you don't like Final Fantasy 8. Listen to these guys talk about Final Fantasy 8. For a hater, you will at least understand the story. You will appreciate some of the things maybe you didn't appreciate. They'll probably highlight some of the things that you didn't like. And again, you don't just because I understand the junction system and like it for what it is doesn't mean that it was great. You know what I mean? It wasn't that great of a
Yeah.
system overall when you think about it. So I agree with the people that don't like the junction and don't like the draw, but they were really good. And there was another guy. I'm trying to remember his name right now, and hopefully I'll remember it in subsequent episodes or whatnot. But the way he broke down Final Fantasy VII remake, scientifically, he played it, I think, 4 times, 3 regular playthroughs and 1 hard mode playthrough, and then in like cataloged different points and different uh, uh, dialogue and different stuff. Bro, he broke into it. I think it was like a 3-4 hour long, maybe 4 or 5 hour long video. Amazing. And there were some, obviously, everybody's got their opinions, and I don't agree with everybody's opinions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And there were some things I was like, well, I don't agree with that. But he knew what he was talking about. And that's what I'm saying at the end of the day. Like I'm willing to give you grace if you know, and I hope people would give me grace, because I'm not going to speak completely authoritative on a topic that I don't understand unless I understand where it's coming from. Then I'll speak authoritatively on the things that I know that are around it. You know what I mean? But if I don't know, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Oh yeah, well, chapter 7, it was great," even though I never read it. But like I would never do that. It just doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense to me. And I hope I just want people to do that more often. But Arc Resonance, there's this one girl, I think her name is something Greek knows something Greek knows Greek. I'm terrible with everybody's names. I'm so sorry. I just subscribe, and when your stuff pops up, I tap it. I don't even
Right.
pay attention to what your name is. I just love diving into your content. She's new too. She's only got like 400 subs. She came out like, I want to say like 3-4 months ago. But the content that she's putting out there is great for what it is. A lot of Rebirth stuff, which is clickbaity because people want to know Rebirth stuff, which is all the same. It ain't out yet. It's coming out soon. This is what you can do. Here's a demo. Bang bang. Uh,
Yeah.
but as far as her, it's stuff like that. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And again, for myself, I'm not about to sit there and oh, there was a new guy, Professor Noctis.
Oh.
Now listen, Professor Noctis, you for yourself personally will absolutely love this guy. Why? Because he is a religious scholar who uses video games to talk about religion and spirituality and things such as that. He's well versed in a bunch of different religions. He's well versed in picking out and understanding where some of the Final Fantasy games are picking up their cues. He doesn't talk down. I mean, when he needs to like tell people to shut up because they're talking about stuff that he's not talking about,
Right.
he kind of gets on them like that, but he doesn't talk down to his audience. He's extremely educational. And even for someone, again, I'm not very religious, but I can dig and dive into people who can provide good spiritual religious content without being so preachy. He's not preachy at all. He's using what we know of religion and what we know of these video games, and he's putting it together. And it's, oh man, I just found him out. I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Bro, you would absolutely love this guy, and he will play the games too. So he's got his streams where he plays the games. He's got his little rants where he pauses and he gets into, this. I read there was this one yesterday where he was talking about like he had read this book from the 60s from this priest that like was talking about trials of kings. And bro,
Yeah.
it's not my cup of tea, but I was listening. So that's what I'm talking about. There's people out here that know these games, that understand these games, that when you know and understand these games, you can't really talk shit about them. And the only reason why people is because negativity is incentivized and
Gets the
that needs
clicks.
to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right, negativity. In fact, I hear a lot of negativity about another recent event. And you're going to be the sports guy here, but so the All-Star game, I've heard a lot of. So apparently they approached almost 400 points in that game. So I heard a lot of complaints about the lack of defense, and so again, you're a sports guy. I know you're heavy into the basketball. There's a lot of sports, but basketball's the thing. I didn't realize the NBA All Star Game and the Pro Bowl were like so close together. It's just weird. Um,
Yeah, actually, that is kind of so realistically, now that I'm back in the racing, the Super Bowl, the Pro Bowl, the
and the
Daytona 500, and the NBA All-Star Game are all like bam. Like
right,
for me, it was like sports overload the past month, past few weeks. So I'm glad Daytona's over because the racing season started. I'm very excited about that. But that's true. Um, so that's a weird one because do you know why the Pro Bowl started to change?
people getting hurt.
Yeah, there was I think it was for the Chiefs too. I think it was I can't remember. I think it was the Chiefs. Uh I don't know. It was somebody that was about to have a great career, made it to
Yeah,
the Pro Bowl, got his leg broke or broke his ankle or broke something during the Pro Bowl. Then there was this one time where I think it was Eric Berry. Either Eric Berry or um uh I'm pretty sure it was Eric Berry because it was a safety or a cornerback. Laid into somebody, just pop, pop.
yeah, just gave him a lick.
And they're like, I don't know, we trying to do this for the All-Star game. Because realistically, what the All-Star game is are your best favorite players. I wouldn't say
Yeah,
best, but your favorite players playing a pickup game.
right.
And so the only reason why it's so competitive, so baseball can be competitive, one, because I mean, even though that is a very physical game, is
It's not a
it's
game of
not.
attrition like football.
Yeah, it's not like it's a physical game, but
For pitchers, maybe.
you can play hard and not hurt
Yeah,
yourself, right?
right.
Um, and if you do hurt yourself, then that injury was already there in the first place. Um, and then on top of that, them having the winner of the All-Star game having home field advantage for the World Series, like
Mm-hmm.
that league. I don't really like that too much, but it gives you a reason to play the game.
Right.
Football, I don't think you really want your most favorite players going 100% at the end of the season
No, I get that.
before the new season.
I mean, it's
And
boring as
then
shit. The
in the
flag
NBA,
football, like the most exciting things, the announcers, like the excitement level. Oh, there's a flag. Like that's it. Oh, like the penalties were like the most exciting. Just listening
right.
to what it was, but
I
I
mean,
get
don't get
it
me
though.
wrong. I'm not sitting here and saying that the format that they decided to go with was great, but the format that they had before were like, well, when it first started, it was like a real game, but then afterwards, it was just like
Yeah.
upper pads, and a helmet. I don't want to watch that. I'd rather watch flag football, but then I don't want to watch flag football at all. So why don't we just have these be honors?
Yeah.
Football is not a game that you really need an all-star game. Like why do you want Patrick Mahomes to throw to uh, T Higgins
For two series, and then you
so
bring
he can
in,
hurt T Higgins and
yeah,
then my team don't make it to the Super Bowl next year? I care about that more than this all-star game. And then when it comes to the NBA, the decline of the all-star game to me was when they started changing the jerseys, and they didn't just have the jerseys be like the home your team and then the away your team, right?
mm-hmm.
So when they started having like special jerseys for the All-Star game, and that was what in the late 90s, that's when I started for myself started seeing the decline. And then the scores kept getting higher and higher and higher. And I don't even know I don't know about you, but the people who say they want more offense in basketball don't watch basketball. So why are we placating to them? Why are we placating to an audience that's not gonna watch anyway? It doesn't make any sense. And then now that they have the high scores, they're like, oh, nobody plays defense. You didn't watch it before.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yes, they're not playing defense, but then just like LeBron James said, they're not playing defense during the season either. The most defense that I've seen this
Right.
year for real is the
That
Cavs
tournament. Yeah, yeah.
and the in-season tournament. The Cleveland Cavaliers and as far as sports media go, I'm not saying this because I'm from Cleveland and I'm a Cleveland Cavs fan or whatever. I'm saying this because as a basketball fan, basketball player, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the most complete basketball team in the NBA right now, and they get no coverage. The only coverage we get is, oh, is Donovan Mitchell gonna leave?
Right.
Bitch, we on a 10-game win streak. What are we talking about? Talk about that. Talk about how this dude's got like 20, 40-point games this season without having to score 189,000 points in a game. You know what I mean? And that doesn't really bode well for the rest of the team, but the rest of the team plays their role. You got your role players, you got your role scorers, you got your role defenders, you got your young guys that are playing two-way. And but bro, the Cavs are such a great team right now, right? But then, like we were saying, the only time we saw defense was in the in-season tournament, which everybody was complaining about, but then realized they liked, which duh. And then
Right.
and the Cavs. So nobody's liking these 160-point games. Players aren't even liking these 160-point games. Players that are scoring record highs during the 160-point games don't even like the 160-point games. Luka scoring 70, and then Embiid scoring 70, and then somebody else. Nobody wants to see that. These are supposed to be rare occurrences where somebody pops off. Not every Saturday someone's scoring for 60, 70, 80 points, because now we're scoring 160, 170, 180 points.
Yeah.
Play some defense. And this is the league's doing. This is where the scripted comes into play. This is where those rule changes come into play. And these are one of those things where I say that for the people that want to talk about LeBron and Jordan. So LeBron is one of those players that realistically, actually, well, I wouldn't say actually, he was 1 year removed, but was able to live in kind of the three eras that we argue. So he was at the end of the no zone era, where with the Jordan rules, where the Lakers couldn't adjust. And that's why their three-peat ended, is because now teams were able to play zone and the triangle offense wasn't effective anymore. But LeBron gets in just during that time period where defense is still king, but now you have to figure out ways to shoot over this defense, which is where the Steph Curry, kind of era kind of comes in, because he's a little older than him. But when the Steph Curry era comes in, but you have to also keep in mind, Steph Curry didn't become Steph Curry until about 6, 7 years into his career. So there was a pretty big gap in between the Jordan rules, the no zone, and the 3-point era. Right. And then from the 3-point era where we're at now, I'm gonna call that like the NBA fucking around too damn much era. So we're gonna call it that. But LeBron's been a part of all of these, right?
Yeah.
And so for the people that say, oh, LeBron wouldn't make it in the 90s, or these guys wouldn't make it in the 90s, someone please explain to me the 90s rules. And you don't have to like give me the details. I want someone, including the league, to explain to me what illegal defense was in the 90s. Don't worry, you can't. They can't. No one can. It makes no sense.
Right.
It makes no. You had to have at least 3 players on one side of the half of the foul of the key. Where the foul line is, whatever. If the ball is above the foul, but if the ball is below, then there has to be at least 2 players on one side. It's the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. That's why Jordan was the greatest.
Holy shit.
That's why Jordan was the greatest of all time, because his coach was like, if we have an offense, right? I'm trying to do a triangle. If we have an offense that literally switches in between where these players literally can't go, and we give our best player the ball in the place where these players can't go, he easily can get 2 points. And so that's why it was beneficial to score 2 points back then more than 3, because the 3-pointer was ineffective when you can just create mismatches and get your big man to lay it up. Let's do that. That's where the analytics go, right? So I would say that the best time period was in basketball was 2004 to about 2013, 14. That time period, those 10 years were the best years in basketball history. It was the most pure level of men's professional, because I'm gonna get to that in a second. Men's professional basketball you can get is from 2004 to about 2014, 2015. Outside of that, college basketball is destroyed because of what they're doing in the NBA. To be honest with you, I think that players should just be able to skip college again, because it means nothing. I don't
Yeah.
even know any star men's college basketball player right now. I know more about LeBron James Jr. being on one of the worst college basketball teams in college basketball right now, who's supposed to be good, right? I know more about him than who I don't even know who number one.
Is
I
that
didn't
not
even know that
him?
UConn was number. No, they're not. They can't win a game.
Oh man.
USC is like 10-20 right now. They can't win nothing. They are a terrible team. And Brian is not playing to his 100% capacity. I think they still have him on. Hey, bro, we want you to have a future. I know you want to get at these stats. I know you want these minutes, but we don't want you to die on our watch. So they're not letting him play his full game. But then on top of that, the Trojans just aren't that good. But I say all that to say that uh, uh, what is interesting right now is the women's game, and I know more players going into the women's college basketball that have been in women's college basketball and coming out of women's college basketball than any uh, men's college
Men's
basketball player in
college.
the last like 10 years. No, I wouldn't say 10 years, 5 years. 5 years or so. I don't know anybody. I watch it. I don't know anybody. I don't know these teams. I don't know who's good in the men's college basketball. When it comes to women, I know what's popping, right? So the other big controversy with the All-Star game was how Kenny Smith, I think, misinterpreted the story that Reggie Miller was saying about Sabrina Ionescu while they were doing the Sabrina versus everybody 3-point contest, which is funny because it was Sabrina versus everybody. And I think that's a win for Sabrina, win for women's basketball, win for women's sports in general, because two things. One, Kenny Smith made a point. So I guess there's a story with Sabrina, and I'm pretty sure most of these female athletes, where they're told that, oh, you should get a man, or you should play with dolls, or you should do more girly things than sports. And Kenny was saying, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with girls playing with dolls. Kenny, you completely missed the whole point, my G.
It
There
sounds like
there
it. Yeah.
is nothing wrong with girls playing with dolls. But when you tell a girl that's the only thing that she can play with,
Right.
that's the problem. Because when you tell a Sabrina Ionescu that she can only play with dolls, then she's not going to almost beat every major 3-point shooter in the NBA. Because that's what she
Right
wanted
on.
to do. She didn't want to play with
Yeah.
those stank ass dolls.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. So there was that point. There was that aspect. The other aspect is the women play with a smaller ball. The women play with a slightly truncated 3-point line. It's still further than college, but it's not as far as the NBA. And they're saying that she has an advantage. Okay, and this is coming from someone who was a professional basketball player and a major 3-point shooter. And he even said this too, that, my muscle memory, my muscle memory, my muscle memory. Okay. So if your muscle memory allowed you to go to the NBA and become Kenny the Jet Smith and win championships with the Houston Rockets as their 3-point specialist, then you should know that if we change what ball you were using and the where you shot, it would completely change
Yeah.
your whole game. Number one. Number two, who cares? Who cares? We're not lowering the rim, the hoop, so women can dunk. That's a stupid argument. Stop saying that. We don't want to see women dunk, because when women do dunk, y'all don't say shit. Brittany Griner dunks all the goddamn time. You don't care. Candace Parker dunked in front of my face in 2003 at the Convocation Center in Cleveland for the dunk contest for the All-American game. Seen it. I was there. Y'all ain't say shit. You don't care if women dunk. That's not that you don't care.
Right.
That's not the thing that you want to see. If you like basketball, you like pure basketball, you like defense, you like offense overcoming the defense. Watch women's basketball on a professional and collegiate and even the high school level. Those girls are ballers. They are killers. They are absolutely amazing. And if Caitlin Clark don't prove that to you, then you're just a sexist piece of shit. Sorry. You can at me, you can comment, you can, oh, this is woke, this is whatever you want. Okay, beat Caitlin Clark one-on-one then. I want to see you do it. There was this other argument that I saw not too long ago, where they're trying to say that I think it was like high school boys can beat college or professional women's basketball players.
Hmm.
Can we stop? And if that game, and because where this comes from is there is a time where I believe it was like, I think it was high school boys or a young college team, or like some organizations under 18 team were scrimmaging the women's national team and beat them. Notice how I said scrimmage.
Right.
Scrimmages are games, or like, exhibition games or whatever, but scrimmages are glorified practice.
Right.
Coach is going to put you in a position where you have to overcome a situation that you may not have actually put yourself in, but the coach wants you to learn how to do that. So they're going to go, all right, guys, so here's what you're going to do. You guys are going to run down the pitch. I need you guys to be out of position and then run into position and try to score. But then if they score, you're going, oh, that's 1-0 for the boys. I mean, sure, it is, but they're practicing something. Do we not know what scrimmages are? Like, just tell me you haven't played sports by telling me you ain't played sports.
Right. That's exactly it. Because, I had the same thing when I played football. Like, scrimmage is in no way, shape, or form an actual game.
We can have the time, and we can play against a team that got drove in, and we can go, all right, guys, we're playing a quarter of football, and you play, and as athletes, right? Say I'm on the one team, you're on the other team. I'm trying to beat your ass like it's a game. But it's a scrimmage. Let's just be real about this. And if, say IMG Academy were to go up against St. Vincent St. Mary, which they're not a powerhouse anymore, but IMG definitely is, and St. Vincent St. Mary were to beat IMG during a practice, that doesn't mean that St. Vincent St. Mary is now the number one team in the country. IMG is still the number one team in the country. They just were practicing, and you beat them at practice. What are we talking about here? So these are the things that I'm talking about. So people are complaining about the competitiveness of an all-star game. I really don't think you want your all-star game to be competitive, because if LeBron James would have tore his ACL,
it would be a big fucking
if
story.
Dame Lillard would have tore his Achilles, if Kevin Durant were to break his finger, if Giannis Antetokounmpo were to realize that he sucks at basketball and just quit because he needs to. Sorry, I do not like that guy at all. Then what are you going to do for your team for the rest of the season, because you wanted competition during a break? This is a break for these guys.
Right.
This is a vacation for these guys. They don't want to go to work. It's like a company trip, where then, because you didn't send your required amount of emails, you get fired from. Bitch, you sent me to Cabo. I'm supposed to send emails while I'm at the beaches in Cabo?
Right.
And if I was, why didn't you tell me this? I would have sent the emails while I'm sitting here drinking my Mai Tai. And it would have been drunken emails, so I don't think you want a drunken Mai Tai email for business hours. So what'd you send me to Cabo for? It's the same kind of difference. So, ultimately, there is no real issue going on with the All-Star game. The All-Star game is what the All-Star game is. Your favorite players shooting threes for an hour, 2 hours. The best parts of the All-Star game are the little competitions that they do, but nobody even wants to do those anymore. Nobody cares about the dunk contest. And that's another one. I don't think anyone's cared about the dunk contest since Kobe?
Yeah, I mean, because it's been won by like G Leaguers, right? Like twice in a row, or D League, or whatever.
Like 3 times in a row. So,
yeah,
Riff Raff?
Yeah,
the rapper.
It's
his nephew.
Right on.
Muchung. I forgot his first name.
The dunk contest.
But yeah, that's his nephew, and great basketball player. He's just a little small for the NBA.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of the best players in the G League, but you can't really put him on a roster, NBA roster, especially now that you have a Wembanyama with a 7 foot 5'4" beast of a, and then he's developing in real time. Holy crap. But I mean, the dunk contest, like y'all don't care. What other dunks can you do? You know what really ruined the dunk contest for me was when they had the dunk contest in, I want to say it was NBA Live. Is it either NBA Live? I don't. Maybe it was a 2K. I don't know. Whatever main series was back in 2004,
It
2005.
sounds like a 2K
Um,
thing.
it sounds like a 2K when they had the dunk contest in the 2K. And the reason why the dunk contest was stupid in 2K was how could you do any of those dunks? You could not. It's like reading the Tekken manual for the first time level of trying
Yeah.
to figure out moves. And so imagine that in real life. What other dunks can these dudes do? They jumped over a car, they jumped over a person.
Right. Like they have to get shot at or something, you know?
The 5'7" guy dunked. The one guy jumped from the foul line.
Yeah.
360.
Yeah,
Put
they
his
have to
arm
like
in the rim. What else can we do?
yeah, they're
What
gonna have
else
to
can we
like
do?
set up people like to throw like balls at them as they're in the air and shit. You know, yeah, they're gonna have to keep. Yeah, they're just gonna have to one up it to dangerous
Then
levels.
so then the other thing they want is right. So they want these dunks. They're gonna want to see dunks that they've never seen before, and then they're gonna want LeBron James to do it. First and foremost, LeBron James 40 years old. He ain't doing that shit. And he knew what it was from the get-go. Because again, if LeBron James would have twisted an ankle, tore an ACL, tore an Achilles, broke a toe during a dunk contest, he would never hear the end of it for his legacy and his career. I'm glad. And that's the same thing with Kobe. Kobe did it once and was like, "This is dumb." Jordan did it once and was like, "Nah, I'm cool." One of the Berries won the dunk contest one time. I think that was like in like '08 or something like that. Rick Barry. Don't get me wrong. The Barry family is instrumental, or is a legacy NBA family. Like
Yeah.
never taking anything away from a Barry, but a Barry won a dunk contest. Let's be real about this. We don't really need some of these things that we're holding on to. And so when it comes to nostalgia, bringing us all the way back, right? When it comes to nostalgia, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You want to hold on to things that don't need to be held on to sometimes. And then people get into a rut or don't know what to do creatively or don't have any good ideas. So they go, oh, well, let's do what I liked when I was a kid and then bring that back. And some of those things don't need to be brought back. You know, a lot of this, realistically, a lot of this stuff that is being remade and that's, I was talking about that recently. I forgot which show we were watching. Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Donald Glover. If you have Prime, yes, watch that show. Great show, especially for you and your wife, because it's not about spies, it's about marriage.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. You have to hide you have to hide deep topics in a movie, a trope of a movie that came out 20 years before with two of the hottest actors in Hollywood at the time.
Right.
Like that's what is catching your attention about Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Oh, I remember that movie that had Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in it. Donald Glover and this Asian chick. What? Well, I remember that one movie, so I'll give it a shot. And then by the time you get to episode 5 or 6 or whatever, the end, you're like, I think I need to talk to my wife about some things in our relationship that maybe I haven't been fair on, or maybe she's
Right.
not hearing me on, or
Yeah.
something like that, right? But that's what I'm saying. We have to hide creativity and nostalgia. Come on, guys. We can all do better than this. So All-Star Game needs to change. Maybe we don't need to have that type of format. Maybe we should just let these guys chill. Maybe we should just name them All-Stars like we name them All-Pros.
Yeah.
Like, what's an All-Pro? I don't fucking care. They care, but I don't care what an All-Pro is. I actually don't even care about the All-Star Game because y'all don't actually put the All-Stars. Y'all don't vote for the All-Stars. You just vote for the dude. It's like baseball. How someone who, because they're voting, basically the All-Star voting is names and guys that you liked from the year before. That could be absolutely toxic cancer trash for their team currently, but you liked what they did last year, so you're going to vote for them in the All-Star game. That doesn't make any sense. Because every Cleveland Guardian that was up for the All-Star game the last 2 years should have been in, and the only one that was like Emmanuel Clase and J Ram. But that's there's more. There's way more All-Stars on Cleveland Guardians. But yeah, regardless, that things need to change sometimes, and when those things change, just accept them for what they are, and be confident about what the future holds. When LeBron James leaves, the league will be in good hands. There'll be European hands, but they are going to
Yeah.
be in good hands. When Tom Brady just retired, league is obviously in good. Patrick Mahomes,
Pastor Mahomes,
Joe
right?
Burrow, Josh
Yep.
Allen, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts. We got a new quarterback, pantheon. We lost Drew, we lost Brett, we lost Tom, we lost Peyton, we lost
Right.
Eli, we lost,
Eli, yeah.
all these guys, but they always get replaced. So what are we worried about? And then for the guys that grew up on the Namaths and the Browns and the I'm trying to think of the other guys. Exactly my point. We don't
Aikman,
even
Joe
remember.
Montana. I mean,
There we go. There we go. I think I went a little too far back. That's how old
it's
I am.
okay.
But even growing up in the '90s, like those guys are announcers now, and we hear their feedback, and now they're the names and faces that we see in other ways. Like it's okay, let things go, and that goes with sports, that goes with our nerdy media, that goes with movies, that goes with TV shows. And to be honest with you, hopefully, I hope that our society kind of, our immediate society kind of understands that as well. That positive change, and including other people into things is okay, because you're going to learn some things and hear some things and have some perspectives and some ideas that you never thought were possible, because we're letting things ride instead of trying to bring the '90s or the early 2000s back.
Yeah, I mean, definitely moral of today's story, and I'm guilty. I'm very nostalgic myself, particularly with the Final Fantasy series. But give it a chance. Absolutely. So good stuff. All right.
Did
Well,
you did
go
you
ahead.
did you watch the All-Star game,
Nope,
or any of the
just heard about it.
just hearing
Just heard, Stephen A. Smith. I listen to him from time to time. Although I can't say that his predictions come true much, so I don't know how much he actually knows. But I know he has a long history in NBA journalism, and so I know I listen to his soliloquy. And again, just seeing the points total, I was like, oh, okay. So that's what type of game it is, which is fine. I mean, I certainly don't have a problem with it, but I've heard people suggest that they have to switch up what they're doing because they don't like this. Okay.
I mean, yeah, they definitely should switch up what they're doing, because the 200-point games are ridiculous. But um I guess the other thing is being where you live, you're not far from racetracks. Are you in the racing? Because I just got back in. I don't think we've had this conversation before.
Yeah. No, not really. I've never I mean, it's a hard question because am I into racing? I mean, I'm into the concept of racing. Can I sit down and watch like a whole entire race? No. Can I sit down and watch the last 20 laps? Yes. Yes, I can. That is exciting.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at
I
with,
got you.
like, but I give it respect though. I'm not one of those like, oh, it's go fast, turn left or turn right guys. Like, no,
Right.
no, there's a
A
lot
little more to it.
that goes into the driver needs to have endurance, the engineers of the car. I mean, and then shit goes wrong. I don't care how good of a engineer or mechanic you are. Like, shit will go wrong with a car for no fucking reason. And so imagine that shit happening at 200 miles an hour and then having to fucking deal with it, or else your day is done. Like, tens of thousands of dollars on the line if you don't figure out how to get that fucking car back on the road and in some sort of shape. So all that interests the hell out of me, but to actually sit down and watch it, like, again, the last 20 laps, boom, I'm there. Absolutely every time. But outside of that,
I got you. Because I was gonna say, me and a buddy of mine, uh, because we watched the Daytona 500 together. Well, we were supposed to watch it. We were supposed to watch everything on Sunday,
Hmm.
but they moved stuff, so I can only stay. And then I thought that we were recording on Monday. That was the other thing. Um, so I ended up leaving a little bit early to get home. But we were thinking about making that a weekly thing. But then I was thinking that, especially uh, when I get this new position, how my Sundays might end up
Yeah.
like turning into like a watch party type thing. But I got you. I got you. Maybe you can join in the last 20 laps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give me a call.
Man,
Absolutely.
that's funny.
Um, but definitely, man. I mean, obviously, for those of you watching this that have always watched or listened, and they're like, "What the fuck are they doing talking sports?" Listen, sports is nerddom right now. I
Yeah.
mean, it has been for a long time. But I mean, absolutely. You know, when football starts
If
again,
you have a fantasy team, you're a sports nerd.
if you have a fantasy team, you are playing sports Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
So, you know, nerd.
And if you are super into baseball, you're probably a numbers nerd too.
Right. Exactly. There's so
So I
much
mean,
stats.
to say that sports is just for meathead jocks or whatever, it's really weird. Because without the analytics guys on the back, it's the same thing with racing. Without the engineers, without the pit crew, without the spotter, without you know the sponsors,
Yeah.
if you will, you're not gonna have a team, you're not gonna have a car, you're not gonna have adjustments, you're not gonna have all the things that you need, right? So when it comes to sports teams, like I know that or sports in general, I know that we front end the players and stuff, which again is one thing that throws me off when I'm talking bigger concepts with people and I use sports. They understand that like the sports are the front facing and there's owners above them, and but then when there's like money conflict and issues, we never look at the owners and how much money they're making. We're always complaining about what the players are making, but the players are making what they're making because they generated 40, 50, 60 billion dollars, and that's just their cut, and that's not even their cut, to be honest with you.
Right.
So I will always side with athletes and players and stuff like that when it comes to uh, the economic side of it. But um, you need all of that. Without the assistants, without the trainers, without any of that other stuff, you don't have a team. So there is a lot of nerdy stuff that goes into, understanding how knees work and ankles work. And there's a lot of nerdiness that goes into, trying to make your player better and realizing, hey, you're a 35% shooter when you shoot from this side of the court. Why is that happening? What's going on with you? Like, what's happening in game? Are we not, pushing the defense over to that side? Are you not getting the ball off fast enough? How's your shot looking? Then the for me, bro, one of the biggest things that changed my sport career was my friend's dad, my best friend's dad at the time. I would shoot like this with my elbows bowed out because it was comfortable, but I would always push the ball away from the rim.
Yeah.
And he was like, you need to point your elbow where you want the ball to go. And then you need to make sure you are looking exactly at the rung of the net where you want the ball to go into. Those two things automatically changed my trajectory. Then I learned what trajectory was because this was like in eighth, ninth grade. And then I was like, oh my God, this game is just physics
Mm-hmm.
really fast.
And
And
a lot of
racing
sports
is
are. But yeah.
physics really fast. And football is attrition
Well, yeah,
really
it's
fast.
attrition, but like I was an offensive defensive lineman in high school, and there was no guarantee that I was going to be the bigger, stronger person. The
Right.
person
Even if you were the bigger, stronger person.
right. So again, it's physics. Like if a dude is bigger than me and he's on the opposite side and I have to get around him to get the quarterback or the ball carrier or to protect my quarterback or ball carrier, like I have to do certain things. I'm not going to outpower him every time. Sometimes
Right.
whole games is like, I'm not going to outpower this dude. So
Right.
I have to get low. I have to get up in his hip. Or if I'm on defense, like I cannot let him get his hands on me, so I had to know I had to step back real quick, swim move over him, and then boom, I'm ready to go. I use his momentum. But you gotta, and believe
I'm gonna
me,
send you back.
right.
I seen that. I seen that glimmer in your eye when you did all that.
Yeah. Boy, I wish I could have my brain now back in my like teenage body.
Right.
I
Oh
would have ruled
man,
the world.
definitely.
So yeah, so you're gonna hear sports stuff on here. But because it's all very connected, all very nerdy.
And my thing about it is you know, even if you didn't like the sports stuff, there's something in sports that you would like, and that you probably do like. It's just a lot of the media landscape kind of makes it polarizing.
Yeah.
And before we switch over or switch off, I wanted to say publicly, Cam Newton was 100% absolutely correct, and it's so funny that when he went to, do you know what I'm talking about? D.
Yeah, when he was saying that when he was talking about the game managers.
Correct.
So
So
yeah.
if you haven't seen it, his interview with Warren Sapp is probably the best of people realizing real time, oh, I should shut the fuck up. And it was hilarious because Warren Sapp, the whole time walking up to Cam at the beginning of their conversation or whatever, was just ready for the smoke. He was like, because the thing about it is Warren Sapp called Cam an ass and a glorified running back on Jason Whitlock's show of all shows.
Oh boy, yeah.
So that's the biggest part about it. So you made your bad point to the worst sports fans in the sports fandom. Whoever watches Jason Whitlock and watches sports, you are the worst sports fan possible. There's no way that you can do two of those things at the same time and be reasonable. Sorry. Um, and if that makes you mad at me, I don't care. We can hash it out. But um, so he said it there, and then when he went to Cam, he was ready for the smoke. You could tell. Even Cam's like producer in the back was like, "Oh, he ready for this. All right, let's get to it then. Let's get to it." And so Cam let him say what he needed to say, and let Warren say what he needed to say. And then when it was his turn, he was like, "Okay, so we're talking about a style of play." And when it comes to, your quarterback, because he had made mention of Brad Johnson from the, what was it, 99 Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
Yeah.
Warren Sapp. No one cares about Brad Johnson. Nobody knows who the fuck Brad Johnson is. You do, because that was your quarterback. And just like you were saying, as a lineman, you know what I mean? You got to protect your quarterback, even if he's a scrub, right? So I get it, but the reason why the Buccaneers won that Super Bowl was because of their defense, not because of Brad Johnson. And so Brad Johnson did what he needed to do to manage the game and not lose it for them on the offensive side of the ball, since their strength was defense. And so when Cam was like, I believe that Tom Brady. And then so Warren said, "Oh yeah, Tom Brady. What you gonna say about Tom Brady?" He was like a game manager, and Warren was about to lose his mind. He goes, "But an elite game manager, the elite game manager." Warren Sapp in real time went, "Oh, game manager is not a bad term, bitch. We've been saying that the whole time. You have to watch the whole segment or get the whole context or actually know what you're talking about, because you're not a quarterback, Warren Sapp. You
Yeah.
were a defensive end, defensive lineman. This was one of the best quarterbacks, I wouldn't say of all time, but one of the best quarterbacks of our generation. And people want to say, "Oh, he didn't jump on the fumble, during the Super Bowl." Neither did the 49ers, and that's why they lost. So what are we talking about?
Right.
Neither did the 49ers twice. George Kittle was joking with his little mic'd up. Oh, hey, what's up, my buddy? Oh, there's a ball on the ground. Oh, you could have got that, George Kittle. That's why they lost the Super Bowl. Are we going to sit there and implicate George Kittle for the rest of his career? No, because George Kittle's one of the greatest tight ends in the game right now, even with Travis Kelce literally on the other end of the field with him. So these are the things that we're talking about. I'm talking. I want to see more of that accountability, and I want to see more good takes, and I want to see more deeper thoughts in sports. I want to see good takes. I want to see deeper thoughts when it comes to nerdy stuff, and then on top of that, for myself personally, I'd be willing to to debate Cole the weirdos. Like I want to get back to that. I know that's not probably the most healthy, beneficial use of my time,
No,
but
but it would
they
be
kicked me off of
interesting.
Twitch 4 years ago, and I never had my opportunity in my prime.
Yeah.
So,
I know,
so,
I get it.
so I want the smoke.
I would love to talk to, like, like we had some people in the comments on our last video. Someone said Deadpool is woke trash. Someone also reiterated something that we had already said on the video, so obviously I didn't say anything. But I would love to talk to and debate one of these. Oh, X-Men is woke, like. And we did this with Star Wars. We did with some Star Wars where it's like, yeah, duh. Like, the X-Men is literally about a race of people that are not welcome in this world, that are feared, and that governments, the American government in particular, tries to eliminate, to kill, genocide. And so they're fighting against that. So what part about this did you think wasn't woke is so stupid. I'm about to stop using. But what part about this did you think was like super pro government or right? Like, no, it's
And most of these
X-Men.
characters were created by a group of white people that people didn't agree with until 3 months ago. So
right on. So
you know,
it's just it's
and they only agree
ridiculous.
with them because now they're doing the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Weird how that works, right?
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like, you look at the X-Men, the old animated series now continuing. You see those people anti-mutant signs. Like, don't
Right.
be those anti-mutant people. Those are the
Because
bad
ultimately,
guys.
Magneto, if I'm not mistaken, because this is I'm about to expose my X-Men ignorance, but I'm
So
a
I got you. Don't
X-Men
worry about
expert
it.
right now. Right. So if I'm not mistaken, Magneto was basically going to reverse oppress the normies is what his
Um,
original intention was, right? And
Sure,
most
when
of
he was
the
like
arcs.
originally, like, yes, the first villain version of Magneto was like, right, we are Homo superior. I survived Nazism. I was in a concentration camp. Um, so yes, but then that, I don't know, quickly is the right, but Magneto then develops, as characters do, into, you know what? Just leave me. I'm going to go and float in an asteroid in space with any other mutant person that wants to get away from you fucks and leave me alone.
Now,
And
hopefully, they didn't colonize that place in order to
they
in order to
certainly,
get
and
that free.
this one right here, well, that's actually for the same issue. But anyway, that one right there starts
Yeah,
with the government, I believe it's USA government, basically the humans going after these mutant refugees that are just trying to get off Earth and go be with Magneto. And they fuck with them. So Magneto steps in and was like, what the fuck are you
right.
doing?
I tried to tell you.
So,
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of it's kind of one of those things where I think that people misread a lot of these themes and misread a lot of these story narratives. And I'm liking this in Final Fantasy as well, but because um they don't know or understand where the source material is actually coming from the get-go. So someone who thinks, you know, I guess let's take the normie view of comic book movies, right? So someone who would be like, I don't like comic book movies, right? Okay, why? They're gonna be like, well, because they got these guys in tights and pew pew and ding ding ding, and like if that's all you see in it, and then sure, I definitely get where you're coming from. In that same mindset, flip that to someone who does like it and only sees it for the costumes and the pew
Yeah.
pew and the power fantasy and the other stuff like that. You completely missed what this is all about then here. You miss the reason why there was a need for a Superman. You miss the reason why there was a need why a Batman was created, even though ultimately the idea of Batman in a modern age is really problematic. But I understand the thought process of the guy who created him, where he was coming from. If I was rich, if I was handsome, if I could fight crime, what would I do? I would wear a bat suit and beat people up. Like the premise is, the
Yeah.
original premise kind of makes sense like that. Now, if you've never had to look at the world that way in any way, shape, or form, and then you just see the guy with the costume being cool and fighting and like all the poster you got in the background, like you see all that and you're like, oh man, that's cool. Or you look at Star Wars and you're like, oh man, laser swords.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like, yeah, you
well,
like
more
the
to it than that.
icing, but not think there's a whole lot of cake that's delicious.
Right.
So
And to be honest with you, I'm getting into an age where I don't like that icing
I'm right there
at
with
all.
you.
Take that shit
I'll
off.
scrape that
If you're gonna
shit.
make cake, just give me the damn cake. Matter of fact, I just want the cake. Just make the little cake. Don't put no icing on it at all. I'll just eat the fluffy stuff. Okay.
Yep.
That is all I need. That icing just
It's too
burns my
much.
teeth.
Way too much. Right.
I
Way too
gained three
much.
pounds afterwards.
Hmm.
No, I'm trying to stay.
I'm right
I
there
want
with
all
you.
cake. No icing at all.
We are at that age. Yeah, my wife made some cake pops. I'm like, oh, no, just give me some plain ones. Let's
Yeah, right. Which are plain ones. I don't even know how to do that.
right. Good shit. Before we end here though, you mentioned Cam Newton. I'm gonna watch this interview, but it's funny. I feel he had this interview a while back where him and a female reporter kind of had a back and forth where he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's funny that a woman's asking me about route running," and whatever you think about that, but I swear ever since then, they've had it. They will not accept
So
anything about him.
where Cam was coming from, because so Cam's most viral moments make sense when he is able to break it down. So one of his other viral moments was
After that loss,
when he
lost
after
the
the
Super
loss
Bowl.
and he's trying to take media questions, and first off he wasn't able to change, so that was number one. They like pulled him
Yeah,
out of the locker room before he can like decompress and debrief, like what the fuck just happened. I just lost the most important game of my life, and I didn't jump on the ball. I let my team down. I felt like I left my team down. I'm the leader of this team. If I would have went down, there would have been nobody else who would have blamed me anyway. I gotta decompress this. They pull him out of there. Then they put him right next to where the winning team is doing their press con. Didn't want to hear none of that shit. Man, I'd have walked out too.
yeah,
The fuck? No, we not about to do this right now. You can't ask me no questions next to this dude gloating, talking shit about my team, when realistically, in all intents and purposes, on paper, the Panthers were a way better team. So there's that part. Then the woman thing was they had just come out of I think it was a bad loss. Him being blamed for a lot of stuff. Them talking about how he dresses, this, that, and the third, or whatever, and how the question was asked in a technical manner kind of just threw him off, and his intrusive thoughts came out. Now, would I personally have said it that way? No. Do I agree with how he said that? No, he don't even agree with how he said that. But at the same time, it was facts though. You ain't run a route in your life. You may technically, and that's the same. That's how I feel. That's why I personally like when it comes to a Chris Mad Dog Russo specifically. He literally is paid to be a sports talk heel. If you know anything about sports talk, I listen to enough sports talk radio and sports talk in general to understand who the guy is, to completely be obtuse, to completely piss you off, so those phone lines ring, right?
yeah.
And so those guys do that on purpose. But a Chris Russo will then sit in front of a Cam Newton and be like, well, I've never had the physical ability to do this in my whole life. Exactly. So then when it is time for you to shut up and let the guy who was an MVP and should have been a Super Bowl winner in 2015 with one of the best seasons with one of the worst teams I've ever seen, maybe he knows a little something. And he's not out of the league because he's Cam Newton and he's got an attitude and he's this and he's that. It's that one, he's kind of hurt. Two, teams that would pick him up would put him in that bad situation again. And he's proven via one, having the richest contract at a time, two, being the 2015 year, three, the fact of his whole career, even to get him to where he was in the first place. Why are we doubting this guy? Just say you never watched Cam Newton play?
Yeah.
Just say you don't remember Auburn. Just say you don't remember 2015. Just say that. Just say that the only thing you know about Cam Newton was him not jumping on the ball, which is every fumble ever. Why would you want your best player to jump in a pile of
in the middle of the pile, right, where all sorts of shit goes down? Like
when they almost had the ball 2-3 times without even having to do that in the first place. It was a loose ball. It happens. Maybe you should ask the 49ers why they didn't jump on the ball. Anyway, so so that's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, he was wrong for that. And then again, I think the players during that time period not having an outlet to speak their mind and come clean on their end. Because when we did hear from him again on that matter, it sounded like a scripted PR, apology. But I don't remember where this one is, so I wouldn't be able to link it to you or anything like that. But I've been watching Cam Newton since he's been since he's been doing his own thing with the Funky Fridays, now with 4th and 1, that he spoke on this multiple times. And how he spoke on it, him admitting his fault and holding himself accountable for a thought that, even though was true, just was worded incorrectly. I give him credit. I will give anyone grace who's able to do that. So I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, he said this one time, because I want to know where his thought process is coming from. Now, if he doubles down on some dumb shit, all right, well, then I'm going to have to let this guy go, because this is where his mind's at, like a Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers really is literally, and that therein lies my point. Cam Newton was right 3 months ago, and we're still talking about it. To the point where when you watch the Warren Sapp interview, it's literally like you're gonna see the literal light bulb and life flash through Warren Sapp's face, and be like, oh yeah, well, he wasn't really right, exactly. But Aaron Rodgers has been wrong for the last like 5 years. I don't think I've heard anything Aaron Rodgers say outside of "I threw the ball down the field" has been correct. But we don't just say anything to this dude. We just let him go be a conspiracy theorist and be wrong and get butthurt that a comedian made fun of him, and then he
lie about being vaccinated.
Yeah, right. And lying about that shit. Like, ultimately, I would have more respect for Aaron if, like, he just sat out that year or something. Like, I stand by your principles that way. But then I just watched the thing because it was something else popped up. He said something stupid. Where they broke down like how he made up all his like immunized bullshit. Come on, bro. And if you would have got somebody sick, if you would have killed somebody, or if you would have died yourself, then what? You know what I'm saying? Like, ultimately, I understand where those people are kind of coming from, even though I don't. But like, I understand because I give grace. Just think about others besides yourself. But we don't shit on him. We don't do anything on him. His career is nowhere being ruined. His Achilles, like I kind of want to see where he's going to come with that, and that probably will be like the best part of Aaron Rodgers is how quickly he came out of his Achilles injury. Yeah. But outside of that, like that's the guy that we should be probably throwing in the mud media wise, not the guy who's giving you takes as a quarterback, diving deeper, getting you to understand some of the mental aspects of the game, and kind of. I've never seen Aaron do that. I've seen Aaron talk about some bullshit, on Pat McAfee's show. all the time. But yeah, so it's stuff like that where ultimately, um, you know, you can. It's like being able to read the Matrix. Once you see Warren Sapp, if there was nothing else that would get you to be able to read that code, once you see how Warren Snap just sap snaps back into reality after realizing what Cam said, you'll be able to figure out how the media, sports media specifically, uses fake quotes and half context and parts of videos in order to get a feel a certain way. So then we don't talk about one thing that we need to talk about in sports, or we don't talk about, or we talk about this instead of talking about that, or, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's that one, but there's a lot more to it. Cam is always and will be greater than Aaron Rodgers all day.
Well, you've never seen Cam Newton leave a team like Aaron Rodgers went from the Green Bay to the Jets, and then the next year they make a deep playoff run. So Aaron Rodgers did that.
Right, right,
Green Bay was in the playoffs
right.
this year, minus Aaron Rodgers, but you never seen a team get better after Cam Newton left. So just
That's a
saying,
good point. I like that one.
just saying. All right, well, hey, that's some Omega level commentary here, and I think that's a good place to put in a pin in it. Please, guys, if you made it this far, or please like and subscribe. I do need more subscriber here. Keep bringing the comments, whether they be asinine, like calling Deadpool woke trash, or be like Robert Moore, gives a great comment. Thank you, sir. Said Omega level nerds assemble. Absolutely. We will continue to do that, but definitely do need a little bit of help here. Views are nice for our first show back, but hopefully we can do better with this video. But again, liking and subscribing, commenting, all good things that show engagement. So trying to give something a little bit of positive attention, that would really help us out. On the X app, if that's still your thing, at Omega Level Nerds, at D Square 72. Give me a tweet, or is that what they even called anymore? I don't know. Who cares? I think the app's got about 6 months anyway. They'll have to, I don't know, go solely over to Facebook or Instagram or some shit. But for now, we're there, and I'm I got a bunch of cool friends there, so I still hang out. So definitely do that, John. Before we go, anything you want to
I
plug?
personally don't. Nobody likes my shit, no way. But Mara Ortiz should be shit posting. So if you like memes and funny comments from here and there and funny pictures and someone just trying to have some funniness be spread on social media with all the dumb stuff, Mara Ortiz over here trying to get her little Facebook dollars. So
Okay.
that's where we're at over here.
Okay. Indeed. All right, guys. Well, thank you so very much. We will see you next time on the Omega Level Nerds.